the U.S. government activated something called continuity of government, or COG, okay? And that was supposed to be, when the fear about coronavirus was at its height, they were saying stuff like, what happens if like half of Congress gets infected and taken out, or the White House, or the normal order of succession, president, vice president, speaker of the House, all get coronavirus. So they activated a particular part of NORTHCOM, which is like the North American part of the U.S. military empire, right? A specific one in Washington, D.C. too, that was all about continuity of government protocols where, well, if the chain of succession is broken by the pandemic, the military takes over. This was gamed out by the same people that did Event 201 and Dark Winter in 2018, their pandemic simulation Clade X about how a pandemic would create continuity of government issues and things like that. And of course, Dark Winter talked about a pandemic giving them license to invoke the Insurrection Act and other stuff like this. So what's interesting is that happened in March when the fear was at its height, but they never deactivated those protocols. They've just been sitting there activated all year long, right? And so you have sort of this point that we're heading towards where they've been using this buzzword. You know, I think the last time I was on, we talked about Dark Winter a lot. And since then, how often have you heard, for not just from Biden's own freaking mouth on the debate stage, but mainstream media over and over and over again saying, Dark Winter, Dark Winter, Dark Winter. It's going to be a dark winter. It's going to be the darkest winter in modern U.S. history. Dark Winter, over and over again all the time. That word means something to the national security state. Dark Winter, that 2001 exercise, it's like legendary in these circles. They hear this word being thrown around, those, you know, spooks and these guys know exactly what that means.
Welcome and all American Cartel members, Anons, Facebook friends, and random YouTube viewer, Twitter followers, Parler followers, and all that follower stuff. Thanks for joining me. I got a great episode lined up for you guys today. I know some of y'all don't like Sam Tripoli, but I know a lot of you do, and he's really calmed it on his Adderall addiction, it seems, or his crack or cocaine addiction as of late. I joke, I kid, I jest. As you could hear, Dark Winter is the subject in the beginning here, but Mrs. Whitney Webb, discusses multiple things, and she really isn't a big Trump fanatic. She thinks Trump is part of this giant cabal that's out there in a way. So excuse her for that. I got plenty of theories on to the connections that Trump has with this deep state cabal. Mostly he was a double agent. He was a double spy. They thought he was one of them, and he was really, and maybe at one point he even thought he was one of them. Who knows? Lots of probabilities, possibilities, plausibilities. It's endless. Who knows what really happened behind the scenes with Trump? But Whitney Webb dives into a little bit of that, and she mentions a couple of very interesting things that weren't touched upon in the beginning of this video. It's basically that JFK Jr. and Ghislaine Maxwell were buddy-buddy. I did not know that. I was going to start a podcast and discuss, I already actually made a video, but I haven't posted it yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to. It's about 30 minutes long of me just talking, but I don't feel like it's ready yet. But it talks about Joe Rogan and his conversations, and he discusses how Donald Trump met Melania at Epstein Island. Now, my theory, if that's true, is that Melania was trafficked, and Trump was angry because he didn't realize that she was part of this messed up world. He saved her like a white in shining armor, whatever, the white knight in shining armor, and has come back for these guys years later. But who knows? There's lots of theories and lots of possibilities, like I say. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think is possibly going on behind the scenes after you watch the rest of this video, because Whitney Webb's going to shed light on a lot of subjects, a lot of uncomfortable subjects. Now, please remember, and don't unsubscribe from me, I am 100% behind Trump. I am 100% loyal. I think there's reasonable explanations and answers for all these things, and even if some of them we don't like, it doesn't matter. People are allowed to change and you know, whatever. So anyway, guys, that's all I have for you, at least for this segment. Stay tuned to the very end and I'll comment. Now, I haven't seen this whole video, so I don't take any responsibility for what Whitney Webb or Sam Tripoli say about 40 minutes in. But please enjoy. It's a really great episode, the first 40-50 minutes I've seen, and at the end I will talk to you guys
one of the best
later.
Researchers out there, Whitney Webb. How are you, Whitney?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
Anytime. I owe you a giant apology because we were going to have you on earlier, and you know that whole YouTube purge thing happened. I had a super freak out, so I just kind of moved back the interview, and I feel awful about it. And I'm really happy that you came back on so we could talk and really dive into it. You know, I'm just kind of getting into the place where it's like, fuck it, YouTube. You know, I can't do it, so I owe you an apology. I appreciate you coming back on.
Hey, no worries. I mean, it's a totally understandable thing. I mean, it's super messed up that these people are going after people's incomes to stop information they don't like from getting out there, you know, trying to go after people's business models and how they feed their families. I mean, you have kids, right? So do I. So, I mean, I can totally relate, and mad respect to you for, you know, just looking at how things are, especially now. And like, you know, we have to, it's sort of like, we're at a moment where it's like, speak now or forever hold your peace type of deal with all like the shit going down in the country, but also globally. Like it's wild what's happening. So, you know, mad respect to you, because there's a lot of people in independent media still, you know, trying to avoid talking about some obvious things going down that affect everyone and are bad, regardless of if you support the left or support the right, you know? So.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I feel like I'm going to get a little schooled here. I guess I'm somewhat playing into this whole election thing. And I know that you really like are blunt force with kind of your take onto it. That's all theater. And I totally understand that. And I really have no problems with that. And I catch myself going, I know this is fucking theater. My whole thing is like, and we'll get into it, but you know, your whole thing is that this is all scripted and it's meant to, and it's all playing out exactly the way they want to. And Trump is just as much into it as Biden is into it. And so what are your whole thoughts on that?
Right. So like for 2 years, companies and agencies tied to U.S. but also Israeli intelligence were gaming out all these simulations for 2020 well before coronavirus or any of this election chaos during like full-on election season. All that stuff was obvious. We're talking about how the 2020 election is going to permanently erode the majority of Americans' faith in the election system. And what do you know? That's exactly what's happening. What's going on right now, regardless of what happens or who gets the result, half of the populace, whether they were the Biden supporters or the Trump supporters, depending on how things play out, are going to just fundamentally distrust the election system for who knows how long. It could be permanent. And so basically what these people were doing was gaming that out, different ways to realize that and how that could come to pass, right? So, I mean, it's pretty nuts. And when you look at the fact, too, that like a lot of the fraud indicators and all of that, there's certain things that the right or like Giuliani or Powell or whatever should be talking about, but they're not, right? So they're just talking about Dominion, Smartmatic, and some things, but there's like a company, you know, Periscript is their name, that's tied up with Microsoft, Lockheed Martin, and this year they used an AI algorithm to verify all of the mail-in signatures for all these mail-in votes that came in. Why haven't they talked about them at all? Their founder is really open about the fact that he hates Trump, right? And they didn't even get into that at all, even though that algorithm was never used for elections before. And that's a lot of states had less than 1% human oversight on this AI algorithm that was approving these signatures. Why didn't these guys want to bring that up? Why are they just focusing on Dominion and Smartmatic and not really talking about the fact either? I mean, they're trying to like, it's almost like, you know, the Dominion Smartmatic thing. I mean, that's been around for years. Why weren't people complaining about that more before? Is it just because of what happened this time around? I don't know. I mean, it's almost like they tried to make it look stupid in a way by tacking on this whole thing like Hugo Chavez was secretly behind it, when in fact, the real connections there, which they do mention, but like bringing Hugo Chavez into this just makes it look ridiculous to people outside of the Trump base, so they can just dismiss the whole claim about Dominion and Smartmatic that's like legit, you know what I mean? Plus, like, those were set up and used and funded by the Clinton Foundation, among other groups, to be used in post-conflict democracies. The U.S. goes in, overthrows a government, and then installs a democracy. And then those are the voting systems that they put in place. So this has been weaponized against other countries before, but now we're like, now it's an issue, but only for one part of the country, and it's being promoted in such a way that half the country dismisses it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not being done in a way that would make sense. Plus, I also think like people wanting to put all their faith in someone like Rudy Giuliani.
I know, man. I know.
I mean, his hair dye melts. The dude was like shady as hell at 9/11. Like, he's not your boy. You know what I mean? Like, he's not the guy you want to peg all your hopes on to like go after election fraud.
We know on 9/11 that he moved his camp base, his base camp, and didn't tell anybody why he moved it, because it was so close to what was going to happen at Building 7 that he just moved it right out and didn't inform anybody that why he was doing it or the fact that he was doing it. So I'm completely with you, man. I am completely with you. The biggest thing that makes me nervous right now is the illusion of democracy, the illusion of choice. They're almost like going all in on saying, you know, fuck that. And
I think that was the point. And I think that's why they were gaming out how to create this election chaos. So at least half the country didn't buy it anymore, because then they can sort of push the states into a different form of government. And what do you know? Microsoft, just days after the election, said the next presidential election in 2024, we're going to use Microsoft's Election Guard software is going to be used nationwide. Why aren't people on the right talking about that? You know, Microsoft donated super heavily to Biden and very little to Trump. All of their top executives backed Trump, and the Microsoft CEO wrote the foreword to Klaus Schwab's book on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. That like Great Reset guy, the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, can you talk a little about him? Can you talk a little bit about? Okay, let's finish this thought. I know I'm trying so hard not to jump.
Well, there's like so much crap going on that it's hard
that's
to
the whole thing. Like, I interview people like you, and my friend Amy says, "What the?" And you drop bomb after bomb after bomb. But everyone's like, let her talk. I'm like, okay, man, but I just got to remember these things. But it's like this guy. Well, first of all, it's like, why do you believe every like rebellious movement of over the last 100 years was all just completely controlled? Like, it was all like astroturfing? Because why aren't we seeing any kind of like, I mean, we're seeing tiny pushbacks, but the ability to like people like, why are we just cool with Bill Gates like saying all this shit? Like, why hasn't anybody gotten the torches and the pitchforks and stormed the castle? Like, why isn't this happening? Now we got this thing today about all the truckers are stopping. I'm like, who are you hurting on this? Like, why are you stopping from bringing the food? Who are you hurt? Are you trying so hard to be like, okay, guys, you have to wake up. Apparently it's going to take you not having food on the shelf to wake up? Or is this yet another like controlled opposition movement to just fuck with people?
Right. So I think, you know, in the past 100 years or whatever, I don't think they were all controlled, but you just have to look back at like the 60s and stuff. COINTELPRO, this whole effort by the U.S. national security state to completely undermine legitimate movements. And you saw that too happen more recently with stuff like Occupy Wall Street, like known infiltrators in there, things like that. But you have the FBI now. They pivoted earlier this year to try and entrap. They're not entrapping Muslim Americans anymore like they were after 9/11. They announced an effort to go after extremists on the left and the right, specifically QAnon, right? Which, you know, the FBI came out last year, Trump's FBI, right? And called them a domestic terror threat and stuff like that. So like DHS has been doing really shady stuff all under the Trump administration. I'm really amazed it didn't get called out more. Like they issued a homeland threat assessment, their first one since ever existing. They've been around for like almost 20 years, and they issued their first one in 2020. But in there, they say examples of Russian disinformation, denigrating Joe Biden is one example of Russian disinformation. That's Trump's DHS. I mean, if I was Twitter and I wanted to justify why I censored the Hunter Biden stuff, I would just point to what DHS did. You know, these people aren't, you know, they exist to really infiltrate and subvert a lot of these movements. And what they've done is they've taken groups like Antifa and QAnon and created boogeymen on the left and the right. And they announced this new pivot to this war on domestic terror. So whenever they want to go after a person, whether they're on the left or the right, they can just be like, oh, they're Antifa, oh, they're QAnon, or something like that. And now you have shit like the Washington Post saying someone that doesn't support the vaccine program for COVID-19 is QAnon. They're like trying to lump all these different groups under the straw man of QAnon so they can just round people up. DHS always existed. You know, it was
DHS is the Department of Homeland Security, right?
Yeah. Hey, Whitney. Are you now? I'm not clear. Are you suggesting
Miss Webb, Johnny? Miss Webb, please.
Madam Webb. Are you suggesting that QAnon is fabricated for this purpose, or it's being used for this purpose?
Don't do it! Don't do it!
All right. I think from the beginning, QAnon was an intelligence-driven psyop that was has served multiple purposes, and I think it sort of dovetailed with like Russiagate on the left, serving some sort of similar purposes. So basically, before QAnon came out, you had this guy Cass Sunstein advising Obama, and he talked about the need to infiltrate conspiracy movements to foster a love and trust in government, as opposed to a distrust of government like most conspiracies do. And then you have Russiagate pop out, which made all of the people on the left, their new heroes are people like CIA Director John Brennan and James Clapper and all this stuff who get—
That's unbelievable, right?
I mean, like, right? So that's a conspiracy theory that fostered trust in government for the left. And then you have QAnon being like, well, just sit tight and trust the plan, trusting that government is going to solve the problem the whole time. I mean, you see what happens, right? And now Cass Sunstein is advising the World Health Organization on the vaccine rollout.
Let me ask you something, Whitney. Is it possible that things get away from them? Like the internet, right? The internet has— maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like the internet got away from them. Is it, and just hear me out, is it possible that Q starts as one thing and then people like are like, oh, go fuck yourself? And, you know, because we've seen, and maybe this is, you know, I said a long time ago, I go, either Q is some AI, or it's like they're going to destroy everything and they don't care that all their institutions are going to die. And kind of, you know, Corona comes, everything like is slowly getting destroyed. So it's still possible. But do you ever see that maybe there are things in Q that kind of fostered people to like start doing their own investigating, start looking into Epstein, start looking into this, and like, and this, you know, I don't know if there's maybe, and I do know the Q's like trust the plan, but I think there's a lot of people that call out warp speed. I know you're one of those people. You were never a Q person, but is it possible that Q could become something like V for Vendetta, where it's like people in that they, and I'm totally cool if this is the dumbest thing you've ever heard in the world. I'm totally fine with that. But it's like where people are like, fuck these two parties, fuck Trump, he doesn't deliver any of these things. But this like movement of like just doing independent research, where it's like you're not part of Q, but you're doing the independent research. And like people are calling out Epstein, pedophilia, the Mockingbird media. I feel like Q brings out this whole thing that did they want that to happen? Like nobody pays attention to news anymore.
Yeah, to an extent, I think that's true. But it was also done in a sort of limited hangout way. And it was also done so some of the legitimate stuff that Q people got into, like Epstein, for example, can be smeared by mainstream media as crazy talk. So now you have people in the mainstream media saying Epstein and the Epstein scandal is a gateway to QAnon. What? Epstein was super, I mean, that was like so documented. Like, how can you be like, oh, that was complete bullshit, and it's QAnon, you know?
It's the same with child trafficking, right? I mean, they've completely tarred child trafficking with that QAnon brush, and it makes it so easy for most people to dismiss.
Or don't, not to mention when they say JFK Jr. is going to come back, they make it sound so stupid where he's still alive, and they'll put pictures of like how it's him with his wife. It's to make it sound crazy, even though they do get some things right. Some things
yeah, exactly. Right. And what's crazy, John F. Kennedy Jr. was super good friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. Why don't the QAnon people ever bring that up? You know what I mean?
Oh, it's so true.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's pictures of them hanging out and like New York Post articles about them being chummy and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I think it was done in a limited hangout way. So like it would be different, I think, if Q had promoted do your own research and come to your own conclusions. I'm going to feed you the clues, but that's not how it was strung out. It was strung out like here's little tidbits, Q drops. Right. But also trust these officials. Remember, they were like, trust Sessions, trust Bolton. Yeah. At the time, Q was saying that stuff. And now Bolton is an obvious enemy of the Trump administration, went scorched earth and wrote a book smearing Trump and whatever. And the QAnon people were told to trust him before. And they did. They didn't use their brain. And they're like, the crazy neocon guy that wants to bomb everything. Should we really trust him? Drain the swamp?
The only reason I'm saying this is because there has to be a level of truth to what's coming out. And maybe that's the game. They give you enough truth, and the stuff that's going on with Epstein. Like, was Russiagate a real thing? Was Obama spying on Trump? Is that a real story? Or do you think that's all like some bullshit?
I think that's pretty true. But here's another example about the election thing. One of the main people involved in that illegal spying on the Trump campaign was a lady named Mary McCord, who right before the election was working at a part of Georgetown called ICAP, which I think is the Institute for Constitutional Advocacy and Protection. And those guys, specifically this lady who illegally spied on Trump, right, in his campaign, went around to all these cities around the country and set up national election task forces in places where there were Democratic mayors, including Philadelphia, and created that entire clusterfunk that went down. So where's Giuliani and Sidney Powell talking about someone obviously biased against Trump going into these battleground cities and states, setting this crap up? And you look at the other people at Georgetown's ICAP, you have like the top counterterrorism official under Obama, Joshua Geltzer, one of the people, intelligence link guys last year, saying we're going to target the mind of the American voter in the 2020 election a year in advance. Why are the Trumpers and his legal team not bringing up these people? They are on the record going around to Philadelphia, Seattle, a bunch of like big cities, and setting up task forces with people in places that were accused of doing shady stuff during the election. Why aren't they bringing up this lady when she was obviously involved in something that like triggers the heck out of Trump supporters? And I mean, rightfully so, because it was illegal spying. You know what I mean? So
is it just theater between Trump and the Clintons and Obamas?
Well, I don't know. I think so. I mean, look at Netanyahu, right? What he did, after the election. So Trump gave Netanyahu everything he wanted this whole time. And then the election's contested. And then Netanyahu was immediately like, I love Biden. He's great.
As in theater, you mean that one day we're going to see Trump and Biden and Hillary at $1,000 donation charity event?
I don't know how long Biden's going to be around, but I the first time I knew it was all theater was when Bill Clinton took it. I talk about this all the time, but Bill Clinton took a picture with Trent Lott, Newt Gingrich, and Orrin Hatch when Trent Lott was getting his portrait up in the Library of Congress. And I'm like, these motherfuckers all age. It's all theater, dude. But I mean, again, this has to be the most elaborate theater we've ever seen in our life. To the point where
they gamed it out so much. Like,
it's
really
so insane, man.
So you had the Transition Integrity Project, which was like DNC guys in the Never Trump neocons and major officials in the Republican Party getting together to simulate how to make Biden win no matter what the vote counts were. Right? And the person that played Biden in those simulations was John Podesta, Hillary's campaign manager. And so you have people prominent in both parties you know, because there's people in the Republican Party that hate Trump and they're still prominent in the Republican Party. They still have a lot of pull, you know what I mean? So you had both parties coming together to game out how to make election chaos, even in the scenario where Trump won, that they were simulating. They created chaos and it had it so either Biden would be installed in every scenario or there'd be a role for the military come inauguration day.
So is
right?
so Trump, but does that mean Trump is one of them? Or is he just a different, like, I think Trump is just a different crime family. Like, and they're fighting.
Well, he is a crime. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. But I mean, you look at the people that his like crime family, whatever you want to call it, or like associated with historically, you know, I mean, it was very much that New York City real estate
scumbags
territory, you know, the Kushners, right? Epstein actually used to be involved in New York real estate a lot back when he was hanging out with Trump a lot in the late 80s. And stuff like that. So who was Epstein involved with? What was that orbit? You know what I mean? So like that's, you know.
No, I just have like they're fighting over. It's not that like one side's good or one side's bad. It's that both sides or whatever group is trying to, whatever groups are trying to get the throne, okay, are fighting over the $1 trillion that position gets to dole out. So it's not that like one side cares about Americans more than the other side. It's just like there's a real battle going on for who controls the strings. And even like, you know, what we're talking about is like Iran, right? It's like Biden wants to go in and make that deal again with Iran for whatever reason.
Netanyahu has been loving on him too much for him to be like, you know, actually legitimately wanting to get.
Well, and I was telling Sam before, I think this recent attack on the Iranian nuclear scientist is a move by Israel to make it so that probably Iran's going to step out now and do something that's going to make it impossible for Biden to resume the deal. It's just, and I really think that's what's going on there. Is the Israelis trying to sabotage?
They're trying to make that. I mean,
but
the attack
Israel
on
admitted. Sorry, I was going to say in July, I think it was June or July, mainstream media reported Israeli officials straight up saying that they wanted to start a war before Trump leaves office, i.e. Inauguration Day, with Iran, so that Biden or whoever wins, whether it's Trump or Biden, is stuck with a war in Iran.
There it is then, yeah.
Well, my whole opinion is that the Armenian-Azerbaijan fight is a way to destabilize one of the parts of the border of Iran. And that, you know, so Johnny was just talking about how, what was it, Johnny, that there was
they said this attack was, this guy was in a motorcade with an armored vehicle, and they started taking incoming fire. The guy stops for some reason, gets out of the vehicle, and then there was this Nissan with a remote control or some kind of computerized machine gun system that was just like, and it ended up shooting the guy. But it was like either remote powered or computer powered machine gun. Like it was directed by remote, which is, I mean, just obviously Israeli technology.
So Trump, you know, people like, oh, you're just a Trumper. I'm like, no, dude, I could sit here for all day and tell you what I don't like about Trump. And, you know, one is they gave $100 million to Azerbaijan. What do you think they did with that money? They went and bought all of this weaponry from Israel, in which they used drones. And they said I had talked to friends who had family fighting in that war, and they said if you saw the drone, it was too late. It was too late. You couldn't do anything, and you were dead. They basically created, at the beginning of the Terminator movie, the very first Terminator movie, okay? The first thing you see is a Terminator walking on a skull, which is hilarious. There's so many dead people, there's skulls for the floor. But there is a giant drone that is just searching for people. That's what Israel has at this moment. And it's like Trump is fully on paid for that attack on Armenia to bring in, because that would bring in Russia and bring in Iran. It's like fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah, by the way, those drones now, the U.S. military backed by Silicon Valley and something called the National Security Commission on AI, which is basically part of the U.S. government, are pushing to have all that stuff now be managed by AI, specifically the drones, AI. And the military's own documents say that their next plan is to have it hooked up to soldiers' brains, have like this brain chip interface thing, like now Elon Musk is putting that out there for commercial stuff. They want to make that standard in the U.S. military now.
Oh my God.
So nuts. It hasn't been covered at all because of coronavirus, because of the election theater. But why, all of this has been going on, right? Well, so obviously Biden is being backed by Silicon Valley and the intelligence community and all of that stuff. But since 2018, Silicon Valley, the intelligence community and the military have been running this AI modernization plan called the National Security Commission on AI. It's run by Eric Schmidt, basically, and a deputy, the guy that tried to do Project Maven under Obama at the Pentagon. And those guys have been doing all of these plans, and Trump hasn't said shit about it. And that includes all this AI modernization stuff that is like legit so crazy if you think about it. They're building a new facility in a place called Natwick, Massachusetts, that's all about creating super soldiers that are cyborgs. I mean, they are like gunning for this. And if you think, and so part of the reason I think that they're, doing this pre-planned election chaos, trying to gut people's faith in the electoral system, it's because they know the American people are not down for this like hell that they're trying to like build to maintain military dominance forever. And they have no plans to put that shit to a vote. They're just like, well, this is what you get, where's MAGA here?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I'm proud to announce that Tinfoil Hat is partnering up with our good friends at Sensational Films. That's right, sensationalfilms.com, to learn more about the origins of censorship playing out before our eyes. This film highlights the importance to citizen journalism in the 21st century. There is a massive divide and lack of trust in the media today, so it's imperative that we now participate in exposing the truth with interviews featuring Alex Jones, Roger Stone, Pax Tandon, Max Blumfield, a bunch of other people that I can't pronounce their names, and other figures in the alternative media. Sensational delivers a roadmap to understand the American propaganda system. Okay, so go to sensationalfilms.com and tell them Tinfoil Hat sent you, and enjoy the show. I mean, I've always said I thought Trump was going to be the last of the two-party presidents, that the complete faith in both parties are going to be fucking...
it's low as hell, even on the left, right? I mean, the whole, like, it gets rigged against Bernie 2 primaries in a row, and then it's Biden and Kamala that, like, no one likes, and then Biden's going to get, like, whatever's going to happen to him, it'll be President Kamala, people on the left don't like that stuff, and they're being told to like support all these like basically left neocons, that Biden's putting in his cabinet and all of this stuff, and the transition team.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the Biden's government's it's gonna be just like George W. Bush's, just like Bill Clinton's.
Yeah.
What do you? I'm curious. What do you think the end game here is with respect to the system of government? Because you mentioned that this whole thing could possibly be heading towards a change in the system of government.
At the beginning of the coronavirus crisis in March, the U.S. government activated something called continuity of government, or COG. Okay. And that was supposed to be when the fear about coronavirus was at its height. They were saying stuff like, what happens if like half of Congress gets infected and taken out, or the White House, or the normal order of succession, president, vice president, speaker of the House all get coronavirus. So they activated a particular part of NORTHCOM, which is like the North American part of the U.S. military empire, right? A specific one in Washington, D.C. too, that was all about continuity of government protocols where, well, if the chain of succession is broken by the pandemic, the military takes over. This was gamed out by the same people that did Event 201 and Dark Winter in 2018, their pandemic simulation Clade X, about how a pandemic would create continuity of government issues and things like that. And of course, Dark Winter talked about a pandemic giving them license to invoke the Insurrection Act and other stuff like this. So what's interesting is that happened in March when the fear was at its height, but they never deactivated those protocols. They've just been sitting there activated all year long, right? And so you have sort of this point that we're heading towards where they've been using this buzzword. I think the last time I was on, we talked about Dark Winter a lot. And since then, how often have you heard, not just from Biden's own freaking mouth on the debate stage, but mainstream media over and over and over again saying, Dark Winter, Dark Winter, Dark Winter. It's going to be a dark winter. It's going to be the darkest winter in modern U.S. history. Dark Winter, over and over again all the time. That word means something to the national security state. Dark Winter, that 2001 exercise it's like legendary in these circles. They hear this word being thrown around. Those, spooks and these guys know exactly what that means.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And everything is just a bunch of people just trying to fuck humanity for a paycheck. I mean, like across the globe, we just see fucking cops just fucking cracking skulls for a goddamn paycheck.
Yeah, it's more than that, though.
Unbelievable.
This is where the whole Great Reset thing comes in. These people that are helping plan this out alongside the billionaires and people like Klaus Schwab think that they can get a privileged position in this neo-feudal society that the Great Reset wants to create. Okay, basically what they want to do, and if you read Klaus Schwab's crap books, whatever, about the fourth industrial revolution, which is like AI in the economy, everything's automated and people don't really have jobs anymore, what that means for society. What it means is, there's a big underclass and then there's the techno elite. And so these people that are helping these billionaires enact this vision, right, think that they're going to get to be in the little elite spot while the rest of us are this huge underclass enslaved by technology. And that's basically what this whole Great Reset thing is about.
Sounds like brown shirts to me. Sounds like brown shirts.
I don't disagree with you. So basically what this Great Reset, and this is why they're saying COVID-19 is the catalyst for the Great Reset. All these people like Klaus Schwab are saying stuff like that. It's because it's given them the opportunity to do basically a controlled demolition of all of the existing systems of the world, economic, political, all of this stuff, so they can rebuild it and reset it and have it be set up the way they want. And that's because they know, that shit is so unequal and so bad that at some point people are going to be like, yeah, okay, let's go after the billionaires. People on the left and the right will be like, well, yeah, we're all being screwed by the elite, so let's get together.
You know what's so funny about this plan?
To happen. They don't want it to happen. Yeah.
Here's the funniest thing about this plan. Is one generation it's going to work, and then their kids are such retards, okay? It's all going to crash and burn. And then it's just going to be robots taking over. So it's so hilarious, dude. It's like the universe works in such wonderful ways because these greedy fucks, man, they just do dark art shit, right? And then what happens, dude, is their next generation of kids have no need to all their needs are taken care of, and that's
look at Hunter Biden, right?
They cluster fuck everything. They cluster fuck it all, and it's like that is the greatest part of this whole thing. It's like if you get too greedy and too powerful, your kids are always full blown, and I'm saying it, retards, okay? And that's not making fun of anybody with special needs. I'm talking dumb assholes. That's what a retard is to me. And I flunked first grade and I am one of them, okay? So this next generation so we got these old neocons are trying to and this also has to do with these apocalyptic religious people.
Oh, totally.
Bought into this thing, and they're 80 and they're like, when is this happening? So they're trying to do whatever they can to push this
speed it up.
Yeah. And
so the rapture comes now. Yeah, for real. Pompeo's one of those guys.
Man, I didn't do anything because I thought this was going to happen. And now I'm a fucking 80 and it's getting close to closing time and nothing's happened yet.
Yeah, the whole religious angle is super crazy and totally apocalyptic. And a lot of these religions, it's not just evangelical Christians. There's also an extremist wing in Israel that's really big into this too, about what needs to happen to bringing about the end times and all of this stuff. And these particular extremist groups would have a lot of political pull, oddly enough. In both countries is basically well, we originally thought God would just do this, but he hasn't. So now it's up to us. No, but this is seriously what they believe.
No, I've read about this before. So
it's up to us to make it happen because God wasn't wrong and can't be wrong.
And it's unbelievable. And dude, you just kind of look back and it's you see how they played it out. Fractional reserve banking was, if it wasn't so evil, it would be the most brilliant shit in the world. If you could take it back and you knew they weren't trying to completely fuck your life, right? But it's we're going to make it so you have $1 in the bank, okay? And we're going to be able to loan out $10. What does that do? That makes it so they could bribe everybody with their monopoly money. So now they're bribing and owning everybody with monopoly money, and the real money is just that they're holding on to all the real fucking money, dude.
Yeah.
And they're just bribing everybody. And it's like, how many times do they have to crash the Wall Street and all these assholes lose all their money for them to realize the game that's being played right now?
Yeah. Well, now the Great Reset's going to do that again, because it's also a currency reset. They're trying to make all currency go digital, so all this AI technology stuff they're setting up can dominate currency in the economy, so that you can't participate in the economy, or even, you know, and by that I mean, like, you can't even buy groceries and stuff in what they're trying to set up unless you buy into this whole thing now. And that's why they've already set up these digital ID wallets. The UN is rolling these out now, but they've been being piloted all year by groups like MasterCard and supposed charities, including one with Henry Kissinger on the board called International Rescue Committee.
I want to fight that guy.
Where do you stand? Where do you stand with Bitcoin then?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't really know how I feel about it. You know, my opinion up until this point has pretty much been, if you can't physically hold it, it's hard, you know, because what if they do an internet kill switch and whatever, you know, where does your money go if it's all digital? But
I'm gonna start buying gold.
Well, right, but there's also the issue of, like, okay, if shit really hits the fan, you can't eat gold. You can't give gold to your neighbor, because what are they going to do with it? So my opinion has always been, like, get stuff you can barter with your neighbors. You know, things like seeds or like essential goods or whatever. If people are unable to enter a grocery store, or like in New Mexico where they're shutting down grocery stores for 2 weeks.
Like, how's that governor?
Water. Get your own water source.
Yeah.
Dig a well.
I'm going to buy a farm with a water source.
Well, you can't. It's illegal to harvest your own water in California.
Yeah, well, dude,
so nuts.
I'll throw you in a fucking trunk. That's how you got to this country anyway. I'll throw you in a fucking trunk and take you to fucking Texas or something. This thing's mobile, dog. It's mobile. I mean, I only have this studio because it's great to have a place to use the bathroom when you're stuck in traffic. I'm paying basically $700 a month just to have a place to crush once in a while. I want to get into Klaus. I mean, that's his name, Klaus Schwab. Like, dude, I mean, like, when the parents had the baby where they're like, you're going to be the most evil fuck on the planet. We need a name that is really good, that just the minute you hear it, you're like, oh, you're evil. And that's Klaus. I can't think of a more evil name outside of, like, Decepticons.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he is one hell of a Bond villain, right? And what's weird is that apparently, since he's like come out and the Great Reset this year and the World Economic Forum has been like so much more in your face than any years prior, a bunch of stuff apparently about his dad, his family, his upbringing has just been like wiped. You can't really find out where the guy comes from, but he does say in some stuff, you know, he claims to be one of the co-founders or the original founder of the World Economic Forum, which is basically a group of the world's most predatory billionaires and corporations. And you know who their technology pioneer was? They've scrubbed this from the World Economic Forum website now. It's Isabel Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's sister. Yeah.
I mean, that family
setting
is
up
just
this tech. They are all spies, except for 2 of them. But I mean, they're dirty.
What are the other 2 doing? Like fucking pottery and shit? Like,
no,
it's like the third Manning brother.
There's one that like hated his dad, Robert Maxwell, hated him and like married some girl in Argentina and just like bailed the family. And then there was a girl that wanted to be like an actress or something, or became a teacher and also distanced herself from the family. But all the other ones were all just took different pieces of Robert Maxwell's like huge spy in business portfolio. So the 2 sons, Ian and Kevin, took a lot of the shady business dealings, but all of the high-tech like promise software scandal angle of what Robert Maxwell was doing, that went to Isabel and it went to Christine, and the twins. And they were both involved in the front company Robert Maxwell used to sell that Bragg promise software to U.S. national laboratories so Israel could spy on the U.S. nuclear submarine program and things like that. They were involved in that. And then they get involved with other companies. Isabel Maxwell has ties with Bill Gates going back to the mid-90s. Epstein had ties to Bill Gates in the 90s too.
Oh, I mean,
really
that dude.
Out of control. Yeah, but Isabel Maxwell, she's quoted in this Guardian article from like 2002 and 2003. They asked her about Bill Gates, and the Guardian journalist describes her as starting to purr.
What?
Okay, and then yeah, that's the word, purred, and then starts speaking in a fake Southern accent. She has like an English accent when she normally talks. She starts talking in a like a fake Southern belle accent. They say about like. I'm going to have to paraphrase because I read this a while ago, but she says something like, you know, he wants to keep his tax exemptions, and so why wouldn't he give a little to me? And is like all super weird about it. And then she talks about how her Israeli company, ComTouch, that she started to run in like the late 90s, was put on the map and allowed to get totally in to a bunch of major U.S. corporations and even government agencies, thanks to Bill Gates and Paul Allen, the other Microsoft co-founder who also was tied up with Epstein. So nuts.
Oh,
so yeah,
my God.
it's wild. But anyway, Isabel is the technology pioneer of the World Economic Forum, and now they've taken that off the website. That one sentence. Her profile's still there. But they took that part out, I guess, because people were starting to look into what the World Economic Forum wants to do to technology, and having a Maxwell there after the Epstein scandal is a little too much for them, I think. Because
what do you like in their utopia? Like, what is this world they want? I mean, are we talking straight up 1984?
Totally. They say you'll own nothing, you'll have no privacy, and you'll be happy. That's straight from their website. You'll own nothing. You'll own nothing, but the billionaires like Klaus Schwab will own it all. And they're going to rent it to you, and you're going to be at their mercy. You're going to be their fucking slave. That's what that means.
That's what you already do. You buy a car, you can't fix it. They fix it for you. You're renting it.
Right.
Well, the leases,
it's like
everybody's
level,
leasing now.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I lease. I don't own my car because it depreciates so much.
And this was the World Economic Forum, that quote I just mentioned is the headline of what their vision of 2030 would be like. And the lady writing in there for the World Economic Forum website says, someone is listening, looking at everything I say and do, but also what I think and dream. And I hope they don't use it against me. Think and dream, like they're in your
now we're talking thoughts crimes, right?
And then there's a guy, this Israeli guy, who gave a speech at the World Economic Forum kind of recently. I'm trying to remember his name right now, but I'm kind of blanking. I can look it up later if you want. Noah something. He basically says, like, you can listen to like the leader of the world give a speech, and you can clap your hands and you can smile, but we'll know if you're angry, and you'll be in the gulag the next morning. What? And then, I mean, that's like wild, but if you look at what's going on right now, Amazon just put out a wearable that's supposed to be for fitness, right? But it also gauges your emotions. It tells you when you sound sad or depressed.
Oh my God.
It's like the cloud. Are you going to voluntarily wear that so Jeff Bezos can know what makes you sad or happy and spy on your emotional state? Dude, I mean, this is good. This has crossed so many lines already. I mean, it's nuts. And people are just sitting back being like, yeah, we're going to argue with the guy with a Trump sign in his lawn or a Biden sign in his lawn and let the billionaires fuck us all. Because if they set this stuff up the way they want, there's no chance to rise up and be like, screw you guys. We don't want to live in this world you want to create. They're playing for keeps right now.
I just wish these cops would wake up, man. I mean, like, they are brown shirting like motherfuckers, and eventually they're just going to get RoboCops, and they're going to be fucked too. And it's like, you brought up a great thing. It's like but here's my only thing that I got to say to the elites. In the movie The Terminator, there's no elites in The Terminator. The AI comes and fucks everybody.
Well,
and
all these guys are transhumanists, though. You have to keep that in mind.
They want to become robots.
It's just every time I think there's a silver lining, you come and just shit
on oh, sorry. No, but I mean, it's true. Klaus Schwab says the Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, it will lead to a merging of your physical, biological, and digital identity. I mean, that's pretty easy to see what they're talking about there.
See, I think this goes back. I know this is not what you're into, but This to me goes back to realms, goes back to where we live, our energy. Like, you know, there's Buddhists talk about where this is assimilation, and we're all here to learn the laws of the universe, which is the love and help. And there's these low frequency fucking savage scumbag reptilians. I don't think they're really lizard people, but I think that that's just a way to describe them. And they are psychopaths, and they want to keep us here. And I think fucking transhumanism is some low frequency dark art shit to want to keep us here, because our whole thing is about ascending to a higher level. And I think that's what this is all about, because these scumbags know they're going downtown and bad things are going to happen. They're going to be stuck down here. So they're trying to stick into this fucking special place that we live in. It's so
well, I mean, dude. I think the vibrational thing is pretty right, because what are they trying to do? They're trying to have everyone, as many people as possible around the world, be stuck in a place of stress about surviving. Where's my next meal going to come from? And fear, right? And I mean, if you want to talk about vibrational stuff, I mean, those are like low vibrational states, and keep people, but on the other side of things, make people more easily to control and keep them from thinking clearly. I mean, if you're thinking about, holy crap, I don't have food for my family for tomorrow. I mean, you're not going to be thinking about Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset. You know what I mean? And that's where they want people. That's where they want people. And that's what they've done this year with the lockdowns and stuff. I mean, CNN even reported today that in Japan in October, there were like something like 10 times more suicides than like even officially reported COVID deaths because of lockdowns. And we're supposed to believe still that that's the way to clamp down on the virus, even though they're saying, okay, if you get the vaccine, people like Fauci saying, even if you get the vaccine, the masks and the lockdowns, it's all staying. I can't believe people are putting up with this tyranny.
How is he allowed to walk the fucking earth? How is he allowed? Like, dude, how is he allowed to walk the earth? How is he allowed to walk the earth?
I know, he's so small. He should be easy to like.
Dude, that guy has Dracula vibe. He has the Count from Sesame Street fucking vibe, dude.
Hey, Whitney, you just brought up CNN. What do you think about Trump bringing up his own digital media network?
Oh, yeah, Trump TV, you know, the Transition Integrity Project we were talking about earlier? Mm-hmm. They gamed out a scenario where Trump created a channel literally called Trump TV, and that's the one he's going to make now. Isn't that, like, nuts?
That's what I've been saying. I've been saying that. That's his whole plan, is to create a TV network.
He's a reality TV guy.
Yeah, he's going to have more power. He will have more power as the master of a TV network than he did as president.
But do you think his ego will let him be a one-term president? I mean,
he's running again. He'll run again.
He's 74.
They already said he's the. I think his odds. He's already got odds on all the books, and they're kind of like 16-1 now, basically. And I think he's already told people he kind of wants to. Republicans are urging him. By the way, I thought this was interesting. Republicans are urging him to go to Biden's inauguration. You know, as tradition. You know, to kind of keep that tradition up in order to kind of. Smooth things over so that his re-entry into politics is a little easier. I thought that was interesting. I read this week that they want him. There's no chance of him going to Biden's inauguration, is there? I can't imagine.
I mean,
theater. If he goes, it's theater.
I just think he just like, I think, you know, they used to say something in pro wrestling that in the championship match, the fights were real. Like they were really trying to see who would win, who would lose. That's what they say. Shut up, Johnny. Don't.
No, I can't tell. Are you saying you think that?
Everybody with glasses on in this show right now is hurting my feelings. That's all I have.
But you think that's true, Sam?
I think certain ones were Hogan. Here's my opinion. In the lower level wrestling things, maybe to get a belt is a big deal. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
So you think wrestling is real?
No, Johnny, that never came out of my mouth. I never said that, Johnny. Ever.
You just said the last fight was a little.
I would say that there were certain times that, like, if they were playing for a belt and it was real money, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know one example that kind of supports your conclusion. Remember Bret the Hitman Hart, what do they call it, the Montreal hit job or whatever? You know that, where he was told that he was going to win and he didn't win. They let the other guy win. So.
Well, I mean, like this weekend.
That's the one time I know ever that happened.
Like this weekend, it was supposed to be. Like this weekend, it was supposed to be an exhibition fight. They were going in there to kill each other, or at least Mike Tyson was.
Yeah, well, he's Mike Tyson.
And that's what I mean. Like, that's what he meant. It's like, even though it's a fake fight, there's someone in there still kind of trying to win.
My whole thing is like, Trump can play this game and all this shit. You're like, and listen, dude, if you were friends with Kennedy, you know exactly what Israel is capable of. So it's like, you want to save everything. That's great, but you got to save your ass first. So there's go on.
Well, I think Trump is a brand, right? You have to look back to when he was bailed out by Wilbur Ross, who he installed as, had be Commerce Secretary as soon as Trump got in, even though like Wilbur Ross is super old and falls asleep during every meeting, apparently, right? That was clearly a favor he was paying. Wilbur Ross worked for the Rothschild banking family when they bailed out Trump. And some of those bankers, when Trump was running for president last time, during the Republican primaries, was asked by some like major media organization why they ended up canceling a bunch of Trump's debt. They didn't make him they forgave a lot of the debt because he stood to lose everything, all his business empire, his public reputation, everything. He was going to be nothing because it was tons of debt. And they said, and this banker that was involved in bailing him out told this state, I think it was like ABC or something, said he's more useful to us as a brand than a businessman. That kind of power, banking family power, those guys don't think in like a couple of years Trump's going to be useful as a brand during the 90s. I mean, these guys think like decades in advance, like the Rockefellers too. They think way down the line. I mean, if you look at the trajectory of the Rockefeller family, right? So a lot of these really powerful families with a lot of influence and power, they think way in advance.
I think Obama, from the moment he was born, they had him on trajectory to be. I mean, his grandfather is like ninth cousins with George Bush Sr. Their common ancestor.
The mom
is
worked
a
for
Hinckley.
USAID, which is a CIA cutout. His mom was all up in that CIA cutout.
She was an MK Ultra kitten, dude. They were sending her out and being sex fixing shit with guys they wanted to compromise. And, it's just like, it's like Hinckley's. Who's the Hinckley? Who shot Reagan?
Right.
Who would have been president if Reagan dies? I mean, imagine going to work knowing that George Bush took a shot at you, and you gotta be like, "Hey, George, good to be out of the hospital."
You have George Bush Sr. and Kennedy, the Kennedy assassination.
He's at Dallas.
And then, and then there's the whole Hinckley thing. He was going to eat dinner with Hinckley's parents, like around the same time as the assassination. I mean, it's just like, what? Can't you see how shady the Bush family is?
I mean, people don't want to talk. Like, I have to watch myself with Israel because, there's this conflating between Judaism and Israel, and I reserve the right to criticize a foreign country, just like I criticize my own country, and I criticize Canada or Mexico or Germany or England or China or Russia, and I can go down every fucking country that I've taken a shot at, okay? But you gotta watch yourself. But it's like, dude, there's been 3 attacks on this country, okay? The USS Liberty, 9/11, JFK, and there's been one country involved with all of them, regardless of what people want. Now, I believe in my heart of hearts that Mossad, just like the CIA and just like MI6, is in fact the law enforcement arm of the World Banking Organization, and that they do not represent the country that they say that. Now,
totally agree.
CIA is a bad person? No, I think there are people there doing good work, but there's this, just like any group, there is
the leadership of the agencies, the people that call the shots there. Sure, yeah. I mean, that's the real government in the U.S., right? Or the intelligence agencies, the national security state really runs what's what. And I think it's true in Israel also. And I think it's really good to point that out. I mean, people will say criticizing Mossad's anti-Semitic, but would it be anti-American to criticize the CIA when their crimes are easy to document and you can see exactly what they've done? I mean, same deal for Mossad, dude. But we have to be honest about Israel's political structure and the trajectory it started to take after it was created as a state in 1948. I mean, we just have to be honest about their political landscape because it really shows how Israel's politics today have... it's insane to conflate it with Judaism, a religion that's been around for thousands of years, when you look at what was going on then. So in 1948, there was Menachem Begin was basically the guy that founded the Likud party okay, that Netanyahu's part of and has dominated Israeli politics for a long time. Menachem Begin in the 40s, before the creation of the State of Israel, was part of what was internationally recognized as a terrorist group called Irgun that had its origins with another guy that Menachem Begin worked under, who was inspired to create his political vision by Benito Mussolini. Okay. And so these are the guys that ended up taking over and dominating Israeli politics, not just the political sphere, but they also ran the Ministry of Education, educating future generations of Israelis and militarizing education and just creating, what we have now. So it's not weird that you have someone like Naftali Bennett in Israeli politics move from the Ministry of Education to be the Minister of Defense, one after the other. In any other country, people would be like, that doesn't make sense. Why is the guy running the education system going to be put in charge of the military? But in Israel, it does, right? And so what's crazy about Menachem Begin, he was going to come to the U.S. when he first set up his first political party that was called Herut, the precursor to Likud. And all these really prominent Jewish Americans, including Albert Einstein, write an open letter in the New York Times, and they say, do not let Menachem Begin into the United States. He is a terrorist and a fascist. And that is the guy that in the 70s, became prime minister of Israel, and has that party that he created in his image has dominated Israel ever since. And so after Menachem Begin, you have like stuff going on in the 80s. The beginning of the 80s, like the Promise software scandal stuff, Iran-Contra, that all began when Menachem Begin was prime minister of Israel, right? And so all of this shit has ties to that guy. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to give a pass to other Israeli politicians. It's not just all Menachem Begin's fault. I mean, Shimon Peres was involved in shady stuff and some other guys too. But I mean, that's how you end up with people like Ehud Barak being all cozy with Epstein, being an obvious pedophile, going to Epstein's Island.
Unbelievable.
Like he's
that's
in
how you
charge.
Control everybody. That's how you control everybody.
But the Netanyahu, I mean, he is from an ideological line like Menachem Begin. That's fascism, straight up fascism. And it's ethno-fascism because he's like an obvious ethno-supremacist, Netanyahu is. And so how is it anti-Semitic to criticize that? If it was literally any other ethnicity, people would be like, that's Hitler.
Well, you know what it is, man? It's like nobody pushes back. Nobody goes, I've met tons of Israelis. They're wonderful people. They're wonderful people. It's just like they're like Israel is the size of LA to San Diego. That's a very small area. And you're pumping all this money into there. The amount of propaganda that is used to like militarize people. When you hear that their politicians refer to Arabs as dogs and animals. That is propaganda at its best, and nobody's checking it. And the reason nobody's checking it, in my humble opinion, because it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact that Israel is a land bridge that connects Asia and Africa to Europe. And they want to control that fucking area of goods because you can control fucking everything.
Well, it was also about destabilizing the Middle East and carving up the Middle East, which was done by the European colonial powers before Israel was even made. They carved up Syria and Lebanon in such a way that they knew it would create conflict, but they needed even more conflict. So they take, European Jews and have them go in a place that's far away to Palestine, and just basically displace the indigenous population and start all this stuff. But like you were talking about the education system, you have these really intense Likud guys being in charge of the education ministry, and you can see videos of kindergartners in Israel being told that the Palestinians just want to murder them all the time, and that every Arab wants to kill you. I mean, if you get that in their heads when they're kids, I mean, what do you think? I mean, that's why you have people in Israel and southern Israel going out and looking at Gaza bombings and celebrating and all this stuff when they bomb like those poor people who have been like blockaded for over a decade and live in the world's largest open air prison. I mean, that's how it happens.
There seems to be a movement within Israel of also like a pushback, a condemning of Netanyahu and what he represents.
Totally.
And it's like you
it gets no coverage. It gets no coverage.
No coverage, dude, because it's all ran by. So I think this also is happening with China. Okay, I've been to China. the Chinese people are wonderful. The culture's great. I remember when I went there the first time, the taxi driver whose teeth looked like melted fucking candy corn. But dude, that guy was so excited to tell us about his city. And oh, you're American. Oh, dude, this is it. This is awesome. And I was like, man, this guy is so nice. And I've always felt that about China. But now there's been this movement to discuss about these camps. I mean, like, I know I have a guy designing my website works out of China. He's an expatriate, and he talks, and he's like, dude, they don't eat dogs here. Yes, there is a small group of people that do eat dogs. The average Chinese thinks it's fucking gross, man. But now we have this whole movie because, you know, you talk about pedophilia, everyone's like, whatever, dude, you're a fucking crazy conspiracy theorist. If you're like, they're killing dogs, people are like, we gotta stop this right now. They can't hurt the puppies, man. And it's just like, so you fucking weaponize that thought. And then this thought about these camps. Now, he has told me those are not what everybody thinks they are. They are educational camps where they send these people that have no skills camp. Now, if they want to leave, they can. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't looked into, I don't really report on controversies within China, right? I focus on other stuff, generally speaking, but like a lot of the detention camps and all that stuff, I mean, a lot of the people that promote that stuff are the same people that promoted a very false narrative about Syria, for example. The U.S. in national security state has had an interest in destabilizing Russia and China and Iran, countries that it deems as adversaries openly in documents, right? They want to destabilize or put pressure on their government. A lot of times they do that through proxy groups. A lot of the Uyghur people that are, the ones, targeted allegedly by these camps, a lot of them were sent off to Syria to be Syrian rebels, right? So obviously there's some degree of intelligence ties by the US or or the UK or Israel that are sort of embedded in there and have been moving, those people to Syria to a degree. So how much of the camp stuff is fact and fiction? I don't really know, but I just tend to be skeptical just because it plays into a certain narrative. But I mean, detention camps and stuff like that, like the US government has done that historically for a long time. And the people pointing the finger at China don't talk about how it happens in the US, or they don't talk about Gaza and Israel, for example, because they're an ally. So it's all really opportunistic, I think, at the end of the day. But what you're saying about how the average person in China is like super, nice. Well, I think that's true of most places. And what they've done is that they have us so ignorant of how other people are in other countries and just the political realities or the cultural realities of anything to keep us divided too. So we're all like, oh, China bad, when all the stuff comes out, particularly, with election season. Oh, the Bidens are all tied up with China. Well, you know who else is tied up with China? Steve Schwarzman of Blackstone Capital, who gave $3 million to Trump's reelection campaign, right? Yeah. So if the issue is China, why not bring that stuff up? You know what I mean? Or how Eric Schmidt, Jack Dorsey are all part of the Berggruen Institute that wants to create this like transnational group of transhumanist, crazy people.
That's the real trans agenda right there. People want to act like trans are up to no good. It's transhumanism. And that fits into that. What is up is really down, to be honest with you.
And now that you say that, Sam, it makes no sense. Up is really down. How is China going to join the UN and have camps? Either they do or they don't.
Well, I mean, Turkey's part of NATO, and I think that was done so that Turkey could destabilize the whole area and then have to bring China and Russia into war. So, guys, here's my whole thing is this, man. It's like communism, right? I mean, do you have a problem with communism, Whitney? And what it represents? Because, I mean, is the story of the guns being taken away and the mass slaughter of 20 million and supposedly China 60 million, do you believe that is real? Do you believe that the infanticide of girls in China, do you believe that is real?
Well, the infanticide of girls is definitely a thing that happens, but I mean, that's been going on a long time, even before, especially with the one-child policy, but a lot of that has to do with Chinese folk religion and like the ancestor reveration and ancestor worship, that they feel like the family line can't continue. If they only have one girl, there has to be a male child to carry on the ancestry line. So, I mean, you can't blame all of that on like
weird.
communism, right? But yeah, well, I mean, they're a very different society with a long history, and, that's how it is. But in terms of like communism, right? I mean, I would really argue that they're like, I would just personally label them authoritarian. And I think that's because a lot of people, especially in the US these days, are getting so caught up in it's either communism or fascism. But what I think they really mean to say is that it's authoritarianism, and you can get to authoritarianism from the left or the right. And anyone that cares about freedom or liberty should be like, authoritarianism freaking sucks, so let's oppose that. But if we're all saying, you're a communist, you're a fascist constantly, I mean, people are just gonna not really paying attention, So like, okay, we're gonna vote against Trump the fascist and put in Biden the communist, and you're screwed either way. What people should be doing in the US right now is being like, well, what do you know? Biden is arming the most hellish cabinet imaginable, and they're gonna screw over everyone. So maybe let's get together and be like, no thanks, dude. Because right now the billionaires are all united. You don't have the left-wing Silicon Valley billionaires fighting amongst each other with people like Peter Thiel, who's the right-wing Silicon Valley billionaire. I mean, all those guys have come together, and they're like, how can we screw over the little people forever? And that's what they're doing right now, while we're all arguing with each other about words like communism and fascism.
Does communism take people's businesses? Is that an illusion? I know that in China, someone had a comedy club, and the government came and just took their business. Is there a difference between, in your opinion, capitalism and communism?
Well, yeah, I mean,
business model.
Well, yeah, I think there's obvious differences, but you have to keep in mind too that like a lot of this is so muddied, So a lot of people want to, act like Mao Zedong just came up with this whole, crap that he did when he came to power. A lot of it was, super horrible, like the Cultural Revolution, like horrendous stuff happened under him. He was educated in the US, Mao Zedong.
They're all fucking
what I
kids,
mean?
Dude. They're all trust fund rich kids, dude.
So, I don't really know. I don't know. James Corbett did a really good documentary about the links of the Rockefellers and Kissinger and all this stuff and the rise of China. And it's no coincidence you have people now like Henry Kissinger talking about how we have to work with China now and build the techno-fascist panopticon together with China. Otherwise, there'll be a horrible war and everyone will die. So let's create Orwellian hell with China. Those are our two choices. No thanks, Henry Kissinger. Go screw yourself. By the way, he was Klaus Schwab's mentor, Henry Kissinger.
Here's the thing. We can't end, like, the one thing that makes me nervous is like black pill cool guy who's like, oh, the world's come to an end, it's all bullshit, fuck it, and then just walks off. I always want, before we get into that, how is propaganda working right now with the death of the mainstream media? Like, nobody's watching CNN, nobody's watching MSNBC, and now nobody's watching Fox News. So is it the blue check mark is the new mainstream media?
I mean, I think it really depends on what political echo chamber people are in, what they tend to gravitate towards because of how fragmented stuff is. But what I think is really telling is that while trust in mainstream media is cratering like never before, the censorship of independent media is getting so out of control, and it's just starting. I wrote this article a couple weeks ago about how UK intelligence created this declared cyber war against content they don't like, basically, and that they're going to do it with the Five Eyes Alliance, which is the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And they're not just going to deplatform your website. They're going to encrypt all the data on your website so you can't set it back up somewhere else, and scramble your communications so you can't communicate with your team to set it back up. And those tools originally developed to fight ISIS online propaganda, now being turned against people that report, things they don't want out there. Instead of challenging them with facts and arguments and being like, this is why it's wrong, they're just going to drop the hammer. I mean, that tells you that they're scared of, people who are speaking truth to power, because, I mean, there's people looking for that, right? But the harder they make it to find, the more they can try and hold on to control. If you go online and the only website that's still up is CNN, that's what people are going to read, even if they don't trust it. You know what I mean?
Do you think they can put the cat back in the bag?
I don't know. Well, I honestly don't think so. I think if we want to look at everything that's happened over the course of this year, I think there's been instances where they've overplayed their hand. The question is, can people in the U.S. and elsewhere rise above this petty bullshit and see the big picture of what's going on, you know? And will people be willing to like, you know, look in themselves and be like, you know, I'm going to disobey these orders because they're not right. And I don't want my kid or I don't want my family to live in this world they're going to create. I mean, at some point we have to start asking ourselves these things and taking some steps personally, whether it's decentralizing or getting local, building some sort of local community, working with your neighbors to not have to go and you know, be part of the World Economic Forum's whatever at some point in the future, and developing alternatives. Or, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things people can do, but I think it ultimately comes down first to a choice of, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be these people's fucking slave, and I'm going to disobey these orders, because, I mean, the alternative means they win, period. So we have to start there. And I really wish more people would do that, because what we're having now is, you know, people being like, well, Biden will be better than Trump, or Trumpers thinking as long as we get Trump in, everything will go back to normal. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter who's in the Oval Office. This agenda will march ahead, maybe at different speeds, you know, but I mean, it's still here.
I want to end on a positive note, because I believe in humanity, and I believe.
So do I. Yeah.
And not that, and I'm not saying you don't. I just want to be like, how do we? Yeah. How do we? What is the future? Like, how do we? What is your thoughts? Like, how does this play out? Does humanity overcome this?
Well, I think the first part is that we have to start starving Silicon Valley of the data that they're using to create this AI-driven hellhole. AI's fuel is data. The more we can starve them of our data, it sends a message. Also, you know, doing things like boycotting businesses that are promoting a lot of the really Orwellian shit right now. You know, I think is important, but also like local
Ticketmaster, like, you can kiss my ass. How about that, like, Ticketmaster?
But like people, yeah, exactly. A really good example would be Ticketmaster, right? But also airlines that are requiring the World Economic Forum's COVID-19 passport to travel now, right? So they're like doing that crap now. I mean,
I'm down with not traveling anymore. I'm down with it. I'm down if it means like I don't do stand up, or I only go to places that I can drive to, then that's what's going to happen. And I think people need to wake up. And I also think if there's a bunch of people that want to take these dumb fucking things, let them do it. We got to save those who want to be
We have to opt out. We have to opt out of the systems they're trying to hurt us in. And I think the way to do that is to organize the local level. Going to try and do marches in DC isn't going to do shit. We have to get local, go to the halls of local government and be like, we're not doing this shit here. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't happening in our town. I mean, we have to get at that level. That's the only way we can beat this, because they're expecting some sort of pushback, and they're expecting people to go to DC or some big cities, but they're not going to get media coverage. You know, like they've been saying for decades, the revolution is not going to be televised, and it certainly won't be now, especially with all the censorship going on. I mean, just look at what Twitter's been doing recently. That's going to get way worse. Right. So we have to get local. We have to decentralize, because what they're trying to do, the world they're trying to create, is extreme tech-powered centralization. So we have to opt out of their tech to the greatest extent possible without obviously causing yourself economic harm if you need it to work. Right. So like, yeah. But I mean, you don't need to wear a fitness wearable from Amazon that measures your emotions. You know what I mean?
Out of it all. Not playing any of it.
Totally. We have to draw the line, and we have to get local, whether that's pressuring your local government and going out there in force, or building like alternative economic systems, or gardening with your neighborhood. I don't know. You guys figure it out. But we can't be looking at our neighbor as the enemy, because we're all about to be totally royally fucked forever by these crazy elite billionaires. And that's the way out of this.
I love swearing Whitney Webb. It's awesome. I love After Dark Whitney Webb. Whitney, final question as we go. Once again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Who's a better interviewer, me or Tim Dillon?
Oh man.
Careful.
I don't know. I mean, it's different. It's funny though, because every time Tim asks me to do an interview, it's like when I'm super sleep deprived, it's like the one day where I didn't plan to do anything because I'm like so messed up, and then I'm like, well, I can't turn that down.
I think that sounds like to me you enjoy my interviews more. Like you get sleep and ready because you know it's a big show. Bam!
No, I like both you guys a lot. I think you both are super legit. I'm like, really proud of both of you for doing more to get the word out about this stuff than journalists with a platform. You know what I mean? Who are just talking about complete bullshit all the time. I mean, you have like Washington Post people on Twitter going nonstop about Biden's gonna adopt a cat and then there'll be a new cat in the White House lineage of cats. Okay, that's the state of journalism.
It's not even for money either. There's no money in the mainstream media right now. So it's like they're just doing it for hopes that maybe later on they get a talk show. I don't even know what the payoff is. But I also have comedic friends where I'm like, dude, stop trying to pitch the TV shows to studios. Start making your own YouTube channel. Your podcast. They can't do it. They're like, must do old system. It is the way that works. And it's like, dude, I get off the plantation, man. Get off the plantation.
Totally. Exactly. That's it.
All right, Whitney. Where can they find you, Whitney? I know you have your own podcast. It's about time. You've been cooking with gas. I don't even know where's your articles now. I know you used to be on one website. Now you might be doing your own website. What's going on?
So I contribute to The Last American Vagabond, where most of my work has been this year. So thelastamericanvagabond.com. But I also have my own website that's unlimitedhangout.com. And it's not just me. There's a couple contributors there. Vanessa Beeley, Johnny Vedmore, some other people who were really great. And my podcast is on rockfin.com, which I know you're there too, Sam. So that's
I love Rockfin.
Where you can listen to my thing. Yeah, they're cool guys. So you can follow my stuff there also. Mm-hmm.
You've done the Union of the Unwanted as well.
Yeah. I only went on once though, because it's kind of a hard time for me because of the time difference between where I live in the U.S. and I also have a kid. So like if it's late at night, I can't exactly be like, all right, kids, sit tight, and I'm going to go talk for an hour.
Go to sleep. Mom's got to talk about lizards. All right.
Yeah, but I'd like to be on at some point. I mean, a lot of the people that go on that are really good people. Ricky Verandas is a great dude. Charlie Robinson.
He's a hard worker too. It's about we're creating its own like RSS feed, and it's becoming my goal is to make it its own like channel network for all the underground people.
Right on. That would be dope. Yeah
well, I mean, so we should
get
a
spot for me. Well, hey, that's coming. Mm-hmm.
Yeah Enjoy it. Make the money while you can.
So there you have it. I know the title of this video was Dark Winter and it kind of trailed off into no man's land and whatnot, but I figured it was all really good conversation. I kind of wanted to watch it with you guys. Like I said, I didn't watch the last half of it, so it was kind of me watching it with you. And yeah, that's all I have for you. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think, at least of Dark Winter. Let's keep it focused in the comment section towards Dark Winter. Is there a double meaning to it? Is it just mean what they say it means on the surface, and are we just looking too much into it? Is it a coincidence that the Dark Winter's name coincide? And please be sure to share this video with the hashtag Dark Winter. So hashtag Dark Winter, one word, all one word, hashtag, the little pound button, the little tic-tac-toe box thingy with Dark Winter. And share this video far and wide. Just share it, leave it, post it, and forget about it. People want to comment, just be like, oops, if they make fun of you and you're a little shy or embarrassed, just tell them, it was an accident, I was asleep and I must have accidentally shared it and accidentally hashtagged Dark Winter. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you. Like I said, I hope you enjoy it. Next video, I'm kind of open to suggestions, so comment below if you have any suggestions on stuff that you might want me to cover. I can't guarantee I'll cover any of it because really it's a time sensitive issue. If it's old, if I'm in the mood to cover it, if it's relevant, if I could tie it into certain things, it just depends. And if it has, also obviously I can't cover certain things without getting a strike on my channel, so I just try to stay away from certain subjects. But that doesn't mean we can't discuss a lot of very varied subjects that surround the main subject that we all want to talk about, you know. So yeah, like I said, I'm a Trump loyalist. I truly do believe Trump is on Team USA, and these globalists with Biden are something else right now. And I'm a little worried that worried that they're going to release a second cold virus on us. Now that's a theory I kind of wanted to drop on you. I want to save it for my first episode of the Theorizing Theorist, but I fear it'll be too late by then. So if y'all are waiting, if y'all are the Theorizing Theorist fans, I have a main channel with about 5,000 subscribers. It's called The Theorizing Theorist. And right now I got 2 strikes on that. I had to delete all of my videos, and I have 1 month left until these strikes fall off. Then I will be back. But I wanted to talk about the theory, the coronavirus theory that I was going to come up with, is that the common cold is what we're really fighting. Like, what if Trump and Deep State and all these people are in on it with the aliens, and they're trying to make us, they're trying to cure the common cold, find the cure for the common cold. COVID, coronavirus, is literally the common cold. Look it up. So I just, it makes me think like maybe they found a reason, like medically, like, you know, productivity with work. If we can get rid of the common cold or the flu, we can get people to work on average 15 days more a year. And who knows? I know it's a stretched, far out theory, but I kind of have more to it. I just can't all fit it into this little video. So please subscribe, like I said, share, comment below. And as always, guys, you know the routine. To God be the glory.